One of the hangovers, one of the really bad hangovers from that sort of uniparty that Patrick Deneen talked about is this idea that there is this extremely strong division between the public sector and the private sector. The public sector, there's the necessary evil of government. We want to limit it as much as possible because to the extent that we don't limit it, it's going to do a lot of terrible things. And then you have the private sector, sort of that which comes from spontaneous order. It's organic. It's very Burkean, and we want to let people sort of do as much free exchange within that realm as possible. And in the reality of politics, as I've seen it practiced, the way that lobbyists interact with bureaucrats, interact with corporations,
Promises made, promises kept by President Donald Trump. As you just heard, back in January, Trump spoke to the Davos World Economic Forum and castigated the president of Bank of America for debanking conservative voices. Now the president is following through and using the power of the federal government to force the banks to treat all Americans, regardless of their political views, equally. Oh, but the spineless and corrupt banksters want to play the victims now that they've been called out, like all bullies do. According to them, quote, the Biden regime pressured. It was the Biden fault, right? Pressured Chase and Bank of America to debank President Trump after he left office. A JP Morgan executive said Biden's regulators put the fear of God in you if you did business with people like Donald Trump. Funny how that works, isn't it? They blew up the economy in 2008, blamed it on you because you wanted to own a house, got the government to bail them out and pretended to be the victims. And now they've been caught playing politics with their customers, and they want to blame the previous administration. It's a serious thing that Trump is doing when the New York Times prints a headline making it out like Trump is just throwing a tantrum and punishing the banks for it. We're now joined by senior Claremont fellow and former attorney for President Donald Trump's 2020 election year legal challenge, the great Dr. John Eastman, who Bank of America also debanked. Your thoughts on the new developments?
Well, it was never clear to me whether this was the corporate boardrooms of Bank of America, and I also got debanked by USAA, just playing leftist woke politics, or whether, in fact, banking regulators were breathing down their neck, and they just at some point said, it's not worth the cost of all the administrative effort we have to do to respond to all these banking regulators' inquiries about Eastman's transactions. Did he buy sporting goods from a Dick's Sporting Store or whatever? And they said it's just not worth it for a small individual account. We'll make a business decision. It was never clear to me which of those it was, or some combination of both. But look, at least with respect to USAA, which is a bank devoted to military members and their families, people who have put the ultimate sacrifice on the line. We were members of USAA because my wife's father fought in the Navy in World War II and in the Marines in Korea. And you would think that if it was banking regulators, that they would have stood up to this, or at least exposed what was going on so that we could stand up to it. But no, they didn't. They capitulated, and that may be too soft a word because it seems like they were perfectly happy to comply with those regulators' orders. They could have fought back against it, and they should have fought back against it. And what I'm hoping for now is with Trump's new executive order, that this is a thread in a sweater that just starts to unravel the whole regime. I do think banking regulators under Biden were up to their eyeballs in spying without warrants on American citizens and their financial transactions. And these bankers need to be held accountable for going along with that without raising a peep.
You know what? You raise an excellent point. Recall, Dr. Eastman, that an FBI whistleblower revealed that the Bank of America did share banking information of what? Like every person. I'm just going to say they shared information of people who were in D.C. on J6 with the FBI without a warrant, it sounded like. So they were more than happy to go along with this. And while they say it was the Biden regime, they didn't have to comply. But that's at least one instance that we know of that they willingly complied without pressure, and that was related to J6.
Well, that's right. And on mine, when President Trump called out Bank of America in the Davos speech, they quickly fired back on X and said, we don't do that. And I fired back and I said, oh, pray tell, then why did you debank me? They sent, and they initially claimed that they didn't do that. And then I produced a letter where they debanked me. And the letter had, and people can go back on my X account back in April of 2024.